expecting that. But I was expecting not to expect something, so it doesn't count.
Well, as promised, here is part 2 of the Sonic the Hedgehog hot takes. Firstly, I just want to say a massive thank you to each and every one of you for helping me reach over 100 subscribers, as well as each and every single one of you who have submitted a hot take, regardless of whether or not you made it into the first video or not. I just knew, even before recording the first video, I was like, this is going to be a two-parter, and I'm looking at my video editing software right now, and I've already got more hot takes in this video than I did the previous video. Obviously, as of recording, I don't know if this is going to be the case. You guys obviously will if you're listening to this and watching this, but there's a very good chance that this is going to be significantly longer than the previous one. Now, I apologize if you don't make it into this video. It's nothing personal, I promise, but I've genuinely received so many hot takes since, it's going to be very difficult to fit you all in. It's nothing personal, I just don't want this video to be an hour long because I have some pretty big projects that I'm working on at the moment, and it is getting to the point where they're gonna have to require my undivided attention. I hope you guys understand. Anyway, without further ado, let's read some spicy hot takes, shall we? Oh, just a quick word as well before we begin these hot takes. I am now using DaVinci Resolve, so I apologize if the editing style here seems either different or a bit rough around the edges. I'm just learning a new piece of software is all. I just decided to completely ditch Microsoft Clipchamp because quite frankly it was doing my nut in. Anyway, let's crack on. So, kicking us off, we have Hypersonic coming in with this take. Thank you very much for your take, Hypersonic. And Hypersonic says that they prefer Forces over Frontiers, and following that, they also prefer Forces over Colors Ultimate, Shadow Gens, and Unleashed. Oh, well, that one's quite a spicy one to start off with. Not really a common opinion, I find. I've already stated my opinion about Forces multiple times, but just to reiterate, I don't hate Forces. Like, I can have fun with it here or there if I'm just kind of messing about and just trying to see how quick I can complete a stage by using many of the exploits that are available to you in the game. You know, like the OP Air Dash or Air Boost or whatever you want to call it. But I think compared to the games that you've mentioned here, it's just not quite as intuitive as the rest of them. That's obviously my opinion, and opinions are like you know what. But to play devil's advocate, I can kind of see why you would definitely prefer Forces over Colors Ultimate. I mean, Colors is already quite a divisive game in the franchise anyway, but a very common opinion about Sonic Colors Ultimate is that it is inferior to the original version of Sonic Colors. Like, that is something that everyone can kind of agree on, or at least most people agree on. Not everyone. Shadow Gens, you're kind of playing with fire a little bit, but I suppose that's why we call them hot takes, because Shadow Generations is regarded as one of the best modern Sonic games that we've ever gotten. Sure, it's not perfect, and I do find it's a little bit short, and one or two of the stages in Shadow Gens don't really make sense. I mean, why the hell is Chaos Island in there? Frontiers, it's hard to really compare Forces to, because Frontiers is radically different in more ways than one. And Unleashed, again, I'll play devil's advocate here. I understand the criticism of Unleashed. A lot of people don't like the Werehog still to this day, so yeah, fairs. I am glad though that you do acknowledge that all the games there you either kind of like or you love. I mean, you're not like throwing any of these games under the bus, which is fine by me. Thank you for your take, Hypersonic. The next hot take for the video comes in from Angelo Emerald YT. Here's my hot take. Please don't hate me. I don't hate you, but I think Sonic Lost World is underrated. Hey look, listen, just because I don't like Lost World doesn't mean that you can't, and the same can be said for any Sonic game. Look, maybe one day I'll give Lost World another chance. It's happened with me before with other Sonic games. I mean, Sonic Frontiers is probably the most recent case of that. At first, when I first played Sonic Frontiers, I wasn't a big fan of it. I played it for like an hour or two and then dropped it and didn't play it for 2 years, and then I revisited it and I really enjoyed it. Maybe the same can be said about Lost World, who knows? I think the reason why a lot of people don't like Lost World is because it doesn't necessarily play like a Sonic game, it plays a lot more like a Mario game. Which I guess when you think about it logistically, it kind of makes sense considering it's a Nintendo exclusive, but so was Colors at the time, and that certainly played more like a Sonic game than Lost World ever did. Obviously, I know they've brought Lost World to PC since, but I just mean at the time it was made for the Nintendo Wii U. And I think it also had a 3DS version, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure as a game, if you forget that you're playing a Sonic game somehow, it's actually quite a good game. But I think it's a case of the fact that it calls itself a Sonic game and it features Sonic in the game. I think that's why a lot of people have a problem with it. But I also think a lot of people would probably have a problem with it if it was a Mario game, because Mario games are made to a certain quality. If you catch my drift. Absolute rubbish, mate. Absolute rubbish. What do you mean? Don't say his name. They might sue you for everything that you've got. Mate, I am living off of McDonald's and tap water. They can't sue me for shit. And even then, like, why would they do that? What, I'm not allowed to speak about any franchise? Oh, look at us. Oh, look at us. Big Nintendo will sue you for that. They won't do that. Oh, well, I'll get back to you. Why are there MI6 agents outside my house? If anything's gonna get me sued, it's gonna be that. Oh well, leaving it in. I'm joking, Nintendo, I swear. I'm joking. I'm joking! Anyway, as I was saying, I just purely think the reason why people just don't like it is because it doesn't really play like a Sonic game. That's literally, I think, the only reason. So even though I don't like Sonic Lost World that much at all, I can still kind of understand why people might like it, especially if you were a Wii U owner and you didn't have any other console and Sonic Lost World happened to be your first Sonic game. Obviously everybody's first has some kind of sentimental value to it, hence why I said in the last video it's impossible for me to hate Heroes because that was my first Sonic game, no matter what anybody else says about it. But thank you for your take, Angela Emerald, really appreciate it. Shads for Dad's Gaming 580 says, by the way, absolutely love the name. Shads for Dad's Gaming says they think that the Colors Ultimate soundtrack is slightly better than the OG Colors soundtrack. I think that actually might be the first time I've ever read a comment even alluding to something like that. I think the reason why a lot of people don't like the soundtrack in Colors Ultimate is because they feel like it makes too many unnecessary changes. Like, the main example I'll use is right when you open the game. When you open the OG Colors and you hear Reach for the Stars play, it's actually just such a fantastic song. I don't care what anyone says, I love Reach for the Stars. And then you go to Colors Ultimate and it's this remix of it that just doesn't quite hit the same. I don't know if it's the vibe or whatever it is, but I just don't get that same feeling that I do when I open up the OG Sonic Colors. Now, I'm no expert in music, I'm really not, so I'm not going to go into all the nuances and stuff like that because I'll just sound like a blithering idiot, implying that I don't anyway. But the opening to the OG Colors, it's punchy, it's vibrant, whereas in Colors Ultimate, Reach for the Stars is replaced with these soft piano notes. Like, the opening makes me feel like I'm in a hotel lobby, not playing a Sonic the Hedgehog game. I use that as the main example because that is the very first song that you hear when booting up Sonic Colors. And listen, I understand, they felt like they had to make some changes because they were celebrating the 10th anniversary of the game. But honestly, I personally would have just left things as they were. I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Do you know what I'm saying? But that's just my opinion. Thank you for your take, Shads for Dad's Gaming. Again, love the name. I have to include this one because I was looking through the comments and I just saw this one staring at me. Spider Brick, I'm assuming that's how I say your name, I apologise if I've pronounced it wrong. The movies are terrible adaptations of the game story-wise and in some cases character-wise. Now, the reason why I felt like I needed to include this one is because the movies brought brand new eyes to the Sonic franchise as a whole. You would have a case of saying that the movies saved this franchise, or at least helped save this franchise and pull it out of the hole it was in. But I want to weigh in on this and I want to be a devil's advocate and hear you out because I kind of understand in some cases where you're coming from. However, I do have kind of a counterpoint to it, if you'll hear me out. So let's start off with the stories, shall we? Yes, you could honestly say the movies aren't completely faithful to the source material story-wise, but they do tend to borrow a lot from them. I mean, Sonic 3 borrowed a lot from Sonic Adventure 2, to the point where you could say it was an indirect adaptation. It obviously wasn't play-by-play, but it borrowed quite a bit from that game. And obviously us as Sonic fans have noticed that the movies have retconned certain things, they've changed certain things. Like, an example of it is Shadow's backstory in the movies. Yes, it's somewhat on the same path. You know, like Maria's involved, Joe Robotnik's involved, Gunnar involved, but his backstory isn't the same as what it is in the games. As far as I remember, in the movies, Maria doesn't suffer from NIDS. For those who don't know what that is, it's basically Sonic the Hedgehog's version of AIDS. I'm not even kidding. Maria is completely healthy, and on top of that, as far as I can remember, Shadow isn't created. He literally comes from an alien planet. So the movies do change quite a few fundamental things about these characters. In terms of Sonic's relationship with Tom and Maddie, it's kind of a typical cliche buddy movie, if that makes sense. You have this nomad who has nowhere to live, has a bit of a troubled past, stumbles across the family, they bring him in and keep him safe and eventually accept him as one of their own. So it kind of strays away from what we know. However, on the flip side, while us as Sonic fans might be able to pick holes in this stuff, criticize it and say it's not completely faithful to the source material, I understand why they went down the road they did with the movies, because there'll be plenty of young kids out there who have never played a Sonic game in their lives, probably know nothing about the IP, hell, adults as well, and it just serves as a great entry point because they're making these changes to make the movies as accessible as possible. Yes, again, us as Sonic fans can pick it apart and say this is wrong and that's wrong and this is bad and this is bad. I don't like the way they handled this character. I don't don't like the way this character's designed. I don't like the fact that they did this, and this. But I can genuinely take a step back and think about it and just think, do you know what? They probably took the right approach in the end. Because let's not kid ourselves, the Sonic lore and the universe can get incredibly convoluted at times. So for them to play it by the book might just completely overwhelm anyone and everyone who knows nothing about this franchise. The movies, to me, serve as an entry point into this franchise. If people like the movies enough, they will go and play the games and get into the lore that way. I will add something to this though, and I'm hoping I'm not the only one. Like, Paramount, if by some miracle you are watching this video somehow, can we tone it back a bit on the pop culture references, please? Cool, fantastic. Sonic knows who Keanu Reeves is, and then Keanu Reeves happens to voice Shadow. Fantastic. I mean, that's a complete full circle thing right there. But we don't need these pop culture references every 2 seconds. I will say they have dialed it back as the movies have gone along, but I do still feel like there's probably far too many of them. Sorry, I went on a bit of a tangent there. Thank you for your take, Spider Brick. I really appreciate it. I hope it didn't come across as too stern or anything. I wasn't trying to. I was just trying to play both sides of the argument. But this, honestly, fantastic take. Really got my brain thinking. We've got a couple of hot takes from Deathmaker next. Sonic should be a darker series, and the Archer comics are better than IDW. I don't know if these are technically hot takes, but they certainly are interesting, so I thought I'd include them. So, Sonic should be a darker series. I completely agree, but only if it's done right. What do I mean by this? Basically, don't pull a Shadow 05. Like, it's not hard to do that. An example that I'll use is Sonic Frontiers. Even though Sonic Frontiers still has a lot of the light-hearted charm that a lot of Sonic games have, it is a game that has a bit more of a serious story and delves into more serious themes, more grown-up themes, if you will. And I think Sonic games can get taken seriously when darker themes and more serious themes are explored properly, not just
somebody please get this man a gun.
Sorry, I know Shadow 05 is catching a lot of strays. Trust me, it will not be the only time. But the Sonic games can be more serious and can be darker and still be taken quite seriously. In terms of the comics, I'm going to be completely honest with you, I can't really have that much input on it. I have started reading the IDW comics, but I've only sort of briefly skimmed over the Archer comics. I know both are very popular, and I actually put up a poll asking which ones were better, and a majority of the people said the IDW comics were better. But then there were also people defending Archie and saying that the writing in the Archer comics was better than the IDW comics. So honestly, given the reception I got on that poll, I'd say, yeah, this is kind of a hot take. General consensus, at least in my community, is that IDW is better. This is a question to you guys who have read the comics. Is Deathmaker right here? Are the Archer comics better, or is IDW better? Please let me know in the comments, because I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Thank you for your hot takes, Deathmaker. Really appreciate it. Up next, we have Tails Show TV. Got a couple in here, so I thought I'd include them both. We'll start with the top one. Tails Show TV says that they hate metalcore and rock is much better for Sonic, primarily because that metalcore feels like whiny teenagers singing. Listen, as a metalcore fan and a fan of that music in general, I do understand where you're coming from, and Sega and Sonic Team took a massive gamble taking the music in the direction that they did. And even though I love the boss themes in Sonic Frontiers, I'm just going to say this right now, there's probably a plethora of other metalcore singers that would probably do a much better job. Not saying that Kellen Quinn did a bad job by any stretch of the imagination, but I wouldn't mind if they're going to go down the same route with Frontiers 2 or whatever it's going to be called, if they went for somebody else, or even if they changed the genre from metalcore to hard rock. Like, between you and me, there's a band called I Prevail, and I really do like their stuff. I wouldn't mind them getting involved with the music in the next Sonic game if we're gonna go down that hard rock / metalcore route. Music, just like TV shows, movies, video games, comics, the likes of, have a lot of different styles and a lot of different genres, and not everybody's going to like them, so I understand that. But personally, I kind of like the direction they went with the music in Frontiers, but again, that's because I like that kind of music. I understand that some of us don't. I mean, I've had a plethora of comments saying that they don't like the Sonic Racing Crossworlds music because they don't like EDM, but the music in any video game or anything at all is just purely down to personal taste, and if Sonic Team and Sega feel like they've got a positive enough response to the music that they included, they're gonna keep doing it. So between you and me, I don't think anything's really going to change. In fact, they probably might even go heavier, depending on what the game's about. Honestly, though, you're one of the few people, if not the only person I've seen, genuinely say that you don't like the boss themes in Sonic Frontiers, which, you know, I respect that opinion. That's absolutely fine. You're entitled to it. But it genuinely isn't an opinion that I see that often, if at all. Everybody else is moshing out all of the boss themes, myself included. And your next take is also quite interesting, and one that I think I do actually low-key kind of agree with. You say that the Sonic Heroes gameplay loop is more fun than the regular Sonic gameplay. You just want a new new game that plays more like Heroes than a normal Sonic 3D game. And you also go on to say that you hate the 2D Sonic stages with modern Sonic because they're boring. I actually put up a poll the other day talking about whether or not 2D sections and stages belong in modern Sonic games, or if you'd like to see them get removed. And a majority of people wanted them to get removed. Now listen, I'm going to weigh in on this because this is something that I have an opinion about. The one thing for me that really holds games like Sonic Frontiers back are the 2D sections. Whether it's the open zones, or if it's the stages, or anything else. I'm just not a fan of it. It doesn't feel like modern Sonic belongs in that kind of environment, if you catch my drift. I think the only game in the Sonic franchise that has absolutely nailed the 2D sections is Sonic Unleashed. That is the only Sonic game where I don't mind the quote-unquote 2D sections of modern Sonic games. I personally think you should leave any 2D sections and stuff to Classic Sonic, and I'll tell you why. Because the way Classic Sonic controls, it makes sense for the stages and the sections to be designed like that. Whereas you take modern Sonic with his boosting and the way he controls, I just personally don't think he fits that environment at all. I'll get off my soapbox now, but no doubt I'm going to get back on it in literally a couple of minutes. But to finish off, I wouldn't say the 2D sections are boring for modern Sonic, I'd just say they're more frustrating to play. Because again, I just don't think modern Sonic translates all that well to 2D sections, but again, that's just my opinion. Thank you so much for your input and your takes, Tails Show TV. Much appreciated. Orange Slices says, Eggman had the best levels in SA2.
What?
Alright, I'll be serious for 1 second. Now, the Tails and Eggman missions in SA2, I don't hate them, believe it or not. They are far better than the Knuckles and Rouge stages, let me tell you that for free. But they're still not great. I'm just going to be honest, they're not great. They're slow, they're sluggish, they're long at times. Just overall, to me, they just feel really, really tedious. But by no means are they terrible stages. I would much prefer to play an Eggman or Tails stage in Sonic Adventure 2 over a Knuckles or Rouge stage. Really appreciate the take, Orange Slices. Thank you so much. Mystic Claus comes in with this one. You'll have to forgive me, Mystic Claus. I'm going to have to paraphrase this. Mystic Claus is basically saying that they're sick and tired of people saying that SA1 over SA2 is a massively hot take. And that it's always been kind of trendy to say SA1 is better than SA2. And that while they understand why people think the mech stages control badly in SA2, they also go on to say that the Gamma stages are pretty much no better, if not even worse. And that the treasure hunting in SA1 is a lot easier than it is in SA2. I get where you're coming from, Mystic Claus, because to be honest with you, it has become a lot more common, at least I've noticed, for people to say that SA1 is better than SA2. However, still to this day, by so many people, SA2 is held on this pedestal. So I personally do think it is still kind of a hot take to say that SA1 is better than SA2, but I'd say give it a year and things might change. Because more and more people are coming out and saying that SA1 is better than SA2. And I've noticed the SA2 hate train, if you can even call it that, getting bigger and bigger and bigger. More people are coming out and saying that they don't like SA2, or they think it's overrated, or they think insert game here is better than it. And listen, I love SA2, but I will acknowledge that there are things about it that I just don't like. Like, I agree with a lot of people when they say the treasure hunting stages kind of suck, because I completely agree. I don't mind the mech stages, like the mech stages are fine. I much prefer the speed stages than I do any other stage in the game, but the fact that there's so few of them is absolutely criminal. But all in all, I do love Sonic Adventure 2, and don't get me wrong, Sonic Adventure 1 is just as good in its own right. I think it just all boils down to personal preference, which one's better, but I think we can all agree without one, you can't have the other, because without the first Sonic Adventure game, we wouldn't have Sonic Adventure 2, and you could kind of argue that without both Sonic Adventure games, Sonic wouldn't be where it is today. Thank you very much for your take, Mystic Claus, really appreciate it. And the final take of the video comes from Bren the Puppy. We've already had a take on Forces, so I'm gonna go to your other take. Mephiles the Dark is a good villain. Do you know what? I kind of low-key agree. I think Mephiles was more of a victim of just a terrible game. Kind of the same with Silver, if that makes sense. Now, I know that Mephiles and Silver have both had appearances in recent games as of late, but it is just so Sonic Team and Sega that when a game just does so piss poor, they kind of just try to bury it under the sand, if that makes sense. And I think Mephiles was just kind of a victim of that. I mean, spoiler alert, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, my memory could just not be serving me well at all, but isn't Mephiles like the only Sonic villain to actually kill Sonic? Yes, I know Sonic got resurrected by this, but for a period of that game, Sonic was actually dead. I wouldn't mind seeing Mephiles get included in more games in the future, because between you and me, the fact that he actually killed Sonic makes him terrifying. Thank you for sending in your take, Bren the Puppy. Thank you very much. Oh, and that is where we're going to leave it. I do apologise if your take didn't make the cut. I just want to remind everyone that this isn't anything personal. It's just simply because I got that many and I had to pick out the best ones. And with all due respect, a lot of them did kind of overlap one another. But if your take hasn't been in this video, but a take in this video shared the same point as yours, that is the only reason why yours didn't get picked. Because at the end of the day, I'm kind of just picking out the comments that I see first. Well, these two videos were a lot of fun, and fear not, if your hot takes did not get included in these two videos, they might do later down the line. I can't tell you when my next hot takes video is going to be, but these were pretty fun to make. So keep your eyes peeled for the next time I ask for some hot takes. And listen, if you guys didn't get included in these two videos, just know that I really appreciate your input and your support. Because even if you've not been included in this video, I have acknowledged your hot takes, and I've loved quite a lot of them. But again, kind of like I said at the start of this video, I didn't really want to be sitting here reading through hundreds and hundreds. Maybe I might do a live stream someday, reading out your hot takes both in comments and chat, so just keep an eye out. Don't hold me to that though. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for all your comments. Thank you so much for all your different hot takes. Like I say, just couldn't include them all, that is all it is. And until next time guys, I'll catch you in the next one. Adios.